I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has revealed that during the COVID-19 pandemic, the United States had a death rate 200 times higher than the death rates in the countries of Haiti and Nigeria, even though those countries had a vaccination rate of 1.4%, while the U.S. had a vaccination rate of 81.3%.
During COVID, we have the highest death rate of any country in the world. We had 16% of the COVID deaths, and we only have 4.2% of the world's population. We literally had the worst record of any country in the world. Whatever we were doing, it was utterly wrong. Remember at the beginning of the pandemic, we were told the poor countries of Africa are going to be devastated by this because they can't get a hold of the vaccines. Haiti is the poorest country in the hemisphere. It had a 1.3% vaccination rate, so virtually nobody got a vaccine. They had a COVID rate of 14 deaths per million population. We had a death rate of 3,000 per million population. American blacks had a death rate of probably 3,600 per million population. We had 200 times the death rate of Haiti. We had 200 times the death rate of Nigeria, which had a 1.4% vaccination rate. You know, there's something wrong with our country.
In addition, the U.S. engaged in a Slow the Spread campaign where people, businesses, and churches were shut down. Families weren't allowed to gather together, visit loved ones in nursing homes and hospitals, or even paddleboard in the ocean. Parks and beaches were shut down, people were forced to wear masks, and mandates were issued everywhere. 2 illegal migrants were arrested in connection with the death of an 18-year-old U.S. Air Force cadet candidate who was killed after being hit by a jet ski while kayaking in Texas. Anna Moore, a recent graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy Prep School and an accepted member of the class of 2029, was kayaking on Grapevine Lake in Texas when a jet ski, allegedly driven by Carolyn Gonzalez, crashed into Moore's kayak from behind. After the collision, Gonzalez allegedly drove over the kayak, then took off. The 21-year-old is an illegal migrant from Venezuela. 21-year-old Michael Coelho Peroso, also an illegal migrant from Venezuela, was arrested as well after he allegedly helped Gonzalez get away in a Toyota Corolla. He hit 2 vehicles while leaving the lake area. Police say both illegals ditched the car and ran away on foot. Gonzalez is being charged with second-degree felony manslaughter, reckless operation, and excessive speed of a personal watercraft, and leaving the scene of an accident involving death. Her bond was set at $500,000. Witnesses say Gonzalez was driving recklessly, speeding, and was very close to swimmers and kayakers before she hit Moore's kayak, but also faces a charge of accident involving collision, with additional charges expected. Mugshots have been released for both. Elizabeth Warren once again got it wrong after claiming the one big beautiful bill is taking away from American families. Watch.
These guys are actually out there making history by taking away from hardworking families, from people down on their luck, from seniors, from little babies, so that a handful of billionaires and corporate CEOs can get more giveaways from the government. That is the Republican plan. Billionaires win, everyone else loses.
Let's remind Ms. Warren how the bill benefits working Americans. The bill cuts taxes by 15% for people making between $30,000 and $80,000 a year. It increases wages by up to $11,600 per worker per year. It increases take-home pay by up to $13,300 for the typical family. It initiates no tax on tips for people working in the service industry and no tax on overtime for hourly workers. Plus, it relieves the tax burden on people receiving Social Security. A Harvard professor has been fired for falsifying data in studies done on dishonesty and ethical behavior. Francesca Gino was a tenured professor at Harvard Business School who was making more than $1 million a year in 2020. She had her tenure revoked and was terminated by the Harvard Corporation after a graduate student, Zoe Ziani, accused Gino of falsifying data for her research findings. The student was initially told not to criticize Gino. However, Ziani contacted data Colada, a blog run by behavioral scientists, and told them about what she found. They discovered that Gino falsified data in 4 studies from 2012 to 2020. They then shared their findings with Harvard. In 2024, Science magazine reported Gino had plagiarized text in a book chapter titled Dishonesty Explained: What Leads Moral People to Act Immorally, saying she stole work from 10 sources. Harvard's subsequent investigation produced a 1,282-page report concluding that Gino, quote, committed research misconduct intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly across all 4 studies. On the flip side, Gino claimed it was due to errors or sabotage, and she's innocent. This is the latest controversy to hit Harvard after the university's morgue manager was arrested, along with his wife, for stealing and selling body parts. In addition, Harvard is losing federal funding for their refusal to comply with DHS requirements pertaining to anti-Semitism on campus. The FDA was buying baby skulls during the Obama administration for $515 each to conduct research. According to information obtained by a FOIA request, 198 pages of FDA records were revealed detailing contracts with Advanced Bioscience Resources, ABR, for fetal tissue, including intact calvariums, aka skulls, for research. A fee schedule from those documents lists each skull at $515 and also shows that purchases were made for fetal organs like livers for $580 to $685. In 2009, Obama signed an executive order rescinding the Mexico City policy, aka Global Gag Rule, which banned U.S. tax dollars from being used to pay for abortions in other countries. By overturning this policy, Obama allowed American taxpayers to fund foreign organizations that offered abortions, essentially expanding abortions globally. Obama also funded organizations like Planned Parenthood. His 2010 budget included a $10 million increase for a program which funds clinics and organizations, bringing the total to $317 million, with Planned Parenthood receiving about $60 to $70 million of that funding each year. The majority of Planned Parenthood's federal funding came from Medicaid reimbursements. In 2015, Obama vetoed a bill that would have cut about $500 million in annual federal funding to Planned Parenthood. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump stopped the purchasing of fetal tissue by the FDA in 2018, with the Department of Health and Human Services terminating the FDA's contract with Advanced Bioscience Resources. Joe Biden started it back up again in 2021, allowing the National Institutes of Health and other researchers to use fetal tissue for research, one of his many moves to rescind Trump-era policies. Elon Musk is explaining why members of Congress don't want to codify DOGE cuts, saying there is a massive amount of corruption going on. Watch.
What happens is there's money that, obviously it's your taxpayer money, that is then sent to various government organizations who then send it to NGOs, which an NGO is a non-governmental organization, but obviously if it's a government-funded non-governmental organization, it's just an organization, it's just a government. And effectively, there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then they'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. But it is a circuitous route. It's not like it doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that.
An organization connected to George Soros received $260 million from USAID to promote the rule of law in Georgia, strengthen civil society in Uganda, and advance Serbia's EU talks. According to reports, the East-West Management Institute, an organization that partnered with Soros' Open Society Foundation, received over $260 million in USAID grants over 15 years. According to Elon Musk, EWMI is a Soros front that allegedly funnels American taxpayer dollars from USAID to launch and pay for far-left political agendas and manipulate foreign governments with U.S. taxpayer money. Some accuse USAID of being the, quote, #1 sponsor of terror on the planet. EWMI and Open Society Foundation have worked together on initiatives funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development. They share leadership and staff and engage in the same projects with the same goals. That's what you need to know. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo.